This is where we move over and get to a little bit more realistic as far as salary cap and years on the contract of free agent targets. And this is our first defenseman on this free agent list. At number 7, we have Oliver Shillington, projected to go for 1 year, $1.1 million. He missed the entire 2022-23 season due to being in the player assistance program, dealing with some mental health issues. And he came back out on the other side of it this past season, played 33 games to close out the year with the Calgary Flames. What do you think about Oliver Shillington as a potential option on the left side? Because the Penguins defense, as of right now, it seems fairly set. Obviously, there is still something to be determined with P.O. Joseph. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But what about Oliver Shillington as an option to come in and battle on that left side with Pettersson and Graves and potentially with a guy like P.O. Joseph?
It's an interesting option that I threw in there because he's young. We know the Penguins and Kyle Dubas are looking for, if they're looking to get younger, and whenever it comes to getting younger in free agency, the youngest you can get usually is 27, 26, 27. He is 27. He just turned 27 a little over a month ago. That's just an age option that fits. The fact that he's projected to get a 1-year deal also makes a good amount of sense for the Penguins, in maybe they can get him at a low number, kind of a prove-it year, and he's a guy that you can bring in on the left side, especially if you find a taker for Ryan Graves, or you need to organize that out, or maybe P.O. Joseph doesn't work out. Who knows what exactly is going on in those circles. But the left side is jammed. I understand that. But if certain moves happen, if certain dealing happens, a space opens up for a prove-it year for a guy like Oliver Shillington, who has proven to be a very, very effective player on the blue line before, mostly defensively.
Yeah, and the one thing I like about Shillington as well is he is a very smooth skater. He's somebody that you bring in, he's going to be able to keep up with a guy like Kris Letang in the defensive zone, because with the puck on his stick, Oliver Shillington has been pretty good in his career in the National Hockey League. So I think that you bring him in that aspect, I think he could fit with a guy like Kris Letang. And I also I agree with you. I like the 1-year deal. I understand that, especially when looking at defensemen, the ability to project out how these prospects and when they're going to be ready is very difficult. It's almost a fool's errand, but that gives you 1 more year to see where Owen Pickering is. And I think this is going to be a big year as far as telling how far away and finding out how far away Owen Pickering truly is to becoming a player at the NHL level, because this year he could go one of 2 ways. They could send him back to Swift Current at the WHL, or he could play against professionals for the first time. And either way, it's a big decision that's going to tell you a lot about where they view him. If he plays professionally, then we really get an opportunity to see where he's at whenever that level gets a little bit more intensified, whenever he's playing against grown men in the American Hockey League. So I think it's a big year for him, and buying out 1 year to be able to see where he's at without buying up further into the future and making more of a logjam on the left side, I think that'd be great. But I also think the Penguins definitely need, and if it comes at the expense of clogging up that left side a little bit more, I think you have to do it, because I do think the Penguins need another name on the left side that's able to play in that top 4. As of right now, the one guy that they've kind of earmarked for that is P.O. Joseph, but as we mentioned, he's a restricted free agent and he needs a contract as of this moment. So that's Oliver Shillington at number 7. Number 4, this is the last defenseman on this list. I have Matt Grzelcyk, somebody who had a rough end to a very solid stretch with the Boston Bruins. He's projected to make $3.25 million over 3 years in his next contract, but he cut his teeth in this league as a top defender next to Charlie McAvoy. So in my opinion, that fits the mold of what you need. Again, you're buying out years that could potentially blockade other guys in the organization. You don't know what the future holds for Marcus Pettersson. You would hope they sign him to a multi-year extension coming up this summer or maybe next season, but you need another guy that can play top 4 minutes on the left side, and I think Matt Grzelcyk fits the bill.
He fits the bill a lot like Oliver Shillington. Pretty much the same stuff that we discussed about that earlier, is that if you can move out one of the names on the left side because it's a bit jam-packed, he's a guy that fits right in. He's a little bit older. He's already 30, so maybe there's an age thing that might get in the way. Also, he's probably going to demand a decent amount of money. But for what he brings, it's almost always going to be worth the payment. It's just up to Kyle Dubas to get a good number. Again, none of this is certain, but quite an interesting name to keep an eye on, especially if the Penguins are looking for defensemen. If they're looking for left side defensemen, it's going to be a jam-packed situation. You know, at this point, we assume Ryan Shea's not going to return. We assume Jack Rathbone might not be coming back to the organization either. It's going to be fascinating to see how the rest of the left side works out and who's willing to go where in terms of on the depth chart. And Grzelcyk's a guy that goes near the top immediately.
The only problem that I have, again, and this is the problem with free agency, the money goes higher. And the only reason the money is this high for Matt Grzelcyk right now is because of the amount of left side options on the free agent market. There's not a lot. There is not a lot of guys, especially if you're looking for somebody to play alongside a Kris Letang or an Erik Karlsson. I'm assuming it's going to be Letang because I'm going to assume that Karlsson and Pettersson get the first crack again next season. There's not a lot of options. And a lot of them, there's certainly no guaranteed options, right? There's nobody that is going to be that top tier guy. And especially if you're looking for somebody that's a little bit younger, Shillington is younger, but Grzelcyk at 30, he's one of the younger options on the open market right now. But I do think that he is a fit for the Penguins. And I do think that if you're going to want to fill that hole, it's going to cost you. And that's unfortunate, but that's where you're at. And that's why maybe they choose to go the trade direction and try to fill that left side defensive slot. You know, in a hockey trade where if Tristan Jarry's on his way out or Riley Smith, I think that might be a little bit more cost effective. But if you have to go to the free agent market, I think Matt Grzelcyk is your best option for that left side too on the defensive side of things.